Aloha and good morning. Welcome to this Thursday, September 28th, Hawaii State Senate field briefing. We are at the Lahaina Civic Center in Lahaina, Maui, and this is your Hawaii State Senate Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection. The purpose of this meeting is to take testimony from the public regarding their views and questions relating to home, business, vessel, vehicle, and other insurance issues of concern in the aftermath of the wildfires on August 8th. I am Senator Jared Keohokalole, chair of the committee, and I represent Senate District 24, which includes Kaneohe and Kailua on the windward side of Oahu. I'd now like to ask the members of the committee and our Senate members who have joined us today to also introduce themselves. We'll start here.
Aloha, State Senator Brenton Oa, Senate District 23, that's neighboring Senator Keohokalole, Kaneohe, up to the North Shore.
Senator Angus McKelvey, I'm your senator, and we're here to hopefully be able to help get answers to the questions you have as individuals who are going through all of this. And I want to thank my colleagues who've been there since day one, trying to help any way they can. And this is a way for us to hopefully create a track record of questions, answers, and issues that will provide a blueprint for the community going forward. And hopefully it'll never be used by anybody else, but maybe if that should happen, it might be of service to another community in need. So I thank him for bringing the committee out in this official capacity to get information from the stakeholders, agencies, and then questions from you on issues big and small to see how we can help. So thank you.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Senator Tim Richards. I'm from District 4, Big Island, which is basically the northern half of the Big Island, going from North Hilo, Hamakua, North-South Kohala, and down into North Kona. So I'm your neighbor, and I'm here when Senator Keohokalole wanted to bring it. I said, absolutely, let's get here. So we're here to listen and seek solutions. Thank you.
Okay. Aloha. I'm Senator Lorraine Inoue from the District 1, Pepikeo, Papaiko, Pauka, the 3 Ps, and Hilo District. I do chair the Committee on Water and Land, and I oversee the DLNR agency as well. I'm thankful that Senator Jared Keohokalole and the committee is allowing at least looking at the insurance issues with regards to vessels and other issues related to that. But I'm here to listen as well, and we're happy to be back here since we were here, 3 weeks ago, Senator? Yeah, so we look forward to working with you as well, and more. You'll see us more because I think the Senate has made a commitment previously, thanks to Senate President Kochi, to allow the committees to do their work for the people, as in particular for all of you here in Lahaina and on Maui. Mahalo.
Mahalo. I'd like to especially note the presence of Senator Richards, whose district includes Waikoloa and parts of the northern part of Hawaii Island that were also suffered as a result of the wildfires during that period as well. Before we proceed, just a few announcements. This is the second field briefing, second field proceeding of the Hawaii State Senate that has taken place outside of the Capitol in the last 15 years. So please bear with us. We are attempting to conduct this proceeding in accordance with our current Senate rules, which require live streaming and the ability for any member of the public anywhere to participate remotely. The consensus in the Senate was that because of the unprecedented amount of damage to this community and the uncertainty around access to the legislative process for the people of West Maui and those that were impacted, that we need to come directly here and convene this proceeding in an accessible venue for the community. I'd like to thank the Maui delegation and especially Senator McKelvey for his invitation to your community to conduct this meeting, and also give our sincere thanks and appreciation to Maui County and UH Maui College for their generosity and support in making this event happen. in spite of all of their other responsibilities in the recovery. It was not clear 1 week ago whether we would have a facility that had the capacity to put on an event like this. So it would not have happened without their very generous hard work and support. This meeting, including the audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to the viewing options for this and all Senate meetings on the legislature's website. And as is our committee's practice, written testimony submitted for this proceeding was posted online yesterday and is already available for viewing on the legislative website. We will begin today's agenda by taking public testimony. We will begin with the in-person individuals who have signed up and registered to testify. Then we will take any member of the community who is present who would like to testify. And then we will move to individuals who have registered to testify online via Zoom. We will then ask the Insurance Division of the State Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs to brief the committee, and we'll close with questions and answers for the department. For individuals online testifying remotely, please stand by. This is a State Senate open meeting, so all are welcome to testify, but as noted in the public notice for this meeting, priority and preference for testimony will be given to Maui residents first, who we specifically came to hear from. Members may have questions, individual questions for testifiers, so please stand by and let's begin. So the first registered testifier is Valeria McKelvey. Val, please, yeah. If you can just come up and state your name for the record and brief the committee so that we can get your face and your words clearly attributed online.
Thank you. My name is Valerie McKelvey, V-A-L-E-R-I-E, and I am a Lahaina resident. I actually submitted written testimony. I apologize that it was late, but I'm here to testify. I wanted to, again, thank you for coming out to our community. I think I speak for many that, that it's very important that you come out here. And thank Senator McKelvey for inviting me to our community. I wanted to just expand a little bit on my written testimony, if I could, for a moment. It's kind of more of a broad 64,000-foot view of what's happening here, but there are some specific incidences that we are aware of where individual policyholders are having problems with their claims and processing their claims. I think access, which I actually have in the letter, is still a major issue. And in addition to, I also serve on the Maui County Bar Association. We have been hosting legal assistance tables here at the Civic Center and at the Hyatt since this happened. My last time here was an older couple who live in Waihekuli, and they're having problems with insurance with respect to all the homes around them have burned to the ground. Theirs is still standing. Obviously, it's uninhabitable right now. But they're having problems with their insurance company, one, because they can't get access to do an inspection quickly, which is holding everything up, and they still have to pay mortgage, and they still, it's just compounding everything and every issue. But they're already being told that their roof, that they can see on the drone video is damaged. They're already having beefs with their insurance company, for lack of a better word. They're beefing with the insurance company about what they're going to pay and what they're not going to pay. So they're stressed beyond their retirement age. They don't want to take out additional loans to have to compensate for that gap, and they want to rebuild. This is their home, years and years and years. So that's one specific one. I also have a younger single mom in Kohoma Village who lost her condo and was at a clinic a couple of weekends ago, and she's very concerned because she still has to pay her mortgage as well, maintenance fees as well, but she's also facing an issue right now where she made some changes to her insurance policy about a week before the fire. She wanted to change something more specific. She wanted to try to bring her costs down because it's very expensive to live here in Lahaina, extraordinarily expensive. So in doing that, she made changes to specific provision, but the insurance company made changes unilaterally to another provision, and that's what her living expenses would be. So she went from, and she didn't know it, she's got emails to show it, she went from getting, at the day of the fire, if that change hadn't been unilaterally made, she would have been having $4,000 a month versus $200 a month now to care for herself and her child. So she's really stressing about that. But these are just a couple of specific incidences that we've been seeing in the community that we are dealing with right now. So any help that your committee could be, or the DCCA, or quite frankly, anybody from the state side, to say that it's needed is a gross understatement. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Val. Sorry, I got your name wrong. Yeah. Trevor Ward. Okay. Well, if Trevor arrives later, then we can take him at the end. Veronica Mendoza-Jachowski. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Kehokalole, for being here, and Senator McKelvey for making this available to us. I'm here to talk about...
Can you stand by a second? We are going to try and make sure your microphone picks up. Oh, okay. Okay, please proceed.
Okay. My name is Veronica Mendoza-Jachowski, Veronica. I'm here to talk about the insurance gap in our working class immigrant community, the housing challenges of those indirectly affected by the fires, and the challenges in language access. I'm the executive director for Roots Reborn. I have been on the front lines as a Spanish translator and interpreter since August 9th, the day after the fires. A very large Latinx population lived in Lahaina, and I personally assisted hundreds of affected individuals and families. These working class immigrants, not just Latinos, but also Filipinos, Micronesians, and other groups, are severely underinsured. Most of them are renters rather than homeowners, and renters insurance is rare. Why? Because frankly, many of them are amongst the poorest members of the community. They work the invisible service jobs, cooking, cleaning, and doing landscaping. They simply cannot afford it. To make matters worse, their immigration status disqualifies them from even applying for important forms of aid, notably FEMA. They have no safety net. I ask that you consider substantial grants to fill the insurance gaps for these vulnerable working class members of our community. The economic fallout of the fires has affected the entire island of Maui. Most of our people work in the tourism industry. Just like during COVID, jobs are gone and they're not coming back for a long time. But unlike during COVID, there is no PPP or other aid programs for Maui residents who aren't fire survivors. Yet our people desperately need help. The government is the only entity large enough to make a dent here. One important form of support would be financial aid for long-term housing. I ask that if and when you provide aid to the greater Maui community, you make sure that immigrants are not cut out. Don't ask for social security numbers. Make the application simple and have it translated in the different languages. When our immigrant fire survivors have qualified for aid programs, they either don't know about the programs or are unable to apply themselves because the publicity efforts and applications are not being translated. The languages most spoken by immigrants on Maui are Chuukese, Marshallese, Tongan, Tagalog, Ilocano, and Spanish. Roots Reborn has been working to fill this gap, trying to translate aid opportunities as quickly as possible and make them visible to the immigrant community. We regularly have bilingual volunteers out in the community holding people's hands as they apply for aid. But we have been able to fully meet all of the needs of our immigrant community. So many people are tirelessly volunteering their time, but the financial reality is that they can't afford to keep volunteering. In fact, many of the local organizations that I have visibility into have seen a large drop in volunteer numbers as people have to go back to work. So I request that funding comes straight down to local grassroots organizations like Roots Reborn to be able to hire our local volunteers, many of whom are fire survivors. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in Lahaina, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Next we have Oh, that's all the registered in-person testimony. We have several individuals who registered online, but I'm gonna move right now to the audience. If anyone, there was no mandate that you register. If you would like to testify right now, please just raise your hand. Okay. We were just trying to figure out how many chairs we needed.
Thank you for listening to me. My name is Annie Barber. I work for United Policyholders. United Policyholders is a nonprofit. We charge absolutely nothing to help people navigate their insurance after disaster. We sit on long-term recovery groups for years. We're still sitting on the Paradise Fund. We have resources to help everybody impacted by this, whether it's smoke damage, total loss. As long as they had some insurance funds, we like to protect those people and advocate for those people. That is our #1 job. Myself, I am a 2017 Tubbs fire survivor from Santa Rosa, California, who navigated my recovery with them and 1,400 other neighbors in our subdivision. It's a great resource. The things that I would really like to bring to your attention today that we're seeing that I find a bit disturbing, and that we are we very much want people to take the time to let their insurance do what they've been paid to do. We have a ton of private adjusters, public adjusters, lawyers who are preying on the survivors. And the survivors are scared. They won't even necessarily tell us the names of these people. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a gentleman at our table, Filipino, representing a portion of his community, who had a private public adjuster walking through the building staring at him because he was at our table and he wanted him to sign with them. This gentleman was fearful of not signing with him. Your people may need public adjusters at some point. They may get stuck. There is a place for these in this recovery, but we do want to make it very clear that some of them are preying on your survivors, and the stress from that, the mental health from that, they already are maxed out on all of that. So we need to protect those people. We have a website chock full of information about everything from how do you get paid on your contents, how do you do a scope of loss so you get your dwelling coverage, to how do you do fund control so you don't get scammed in the process by giving your builder more money than what they are at the milestone of. I invite you to look at our website, to contact me directly if you want to have a conversation about any of this. And for those on the Big Island, we also do preparedness, where we explain the buckets of money and what people need to have before they get to this stage where they're dependent on that to come back home and to protect their biggest asset. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Any other Maui residents interested in, okay, please. Anyone else who would, Maui residents interested in testifying? We do have a seat open right in the front. You can just come and sit, and then I'll call you. I recognize you next, and then we have one more. She's gonna come around, she'll be third. Okay, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
If you can go deep into the mic, just so that we make sure that the YouTube feed is picking you up, thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Keo Hakalole and honorable members. I am Hennessy Seal. I am Director of Latino Community Organizing with Roots Reborn. Today I am here because I have been on the front lines as a Spanish translator, from canvassing to phone banking our Latino community, informing them about the financial assistance that has become available to them during the recovery aid process. I am here right now to offer comments regarding the housing and insurance gap. Having renter's insurance is a financial privilege that a lot of us are unable to acquire. Latinos are generally not homeowners. A lot of us live in multi-generational homes. The households that do live there are very different. Some of them are actual blood-related family, and some are blood-related family as well as another member of the community or a friend. So they all look very, very different. And because of that, they all face financial hardships. They come here to Maui seeking a better life for their family, but they are exploited for their labor, and that leaves them with a tight budget of what they can spend money on. And renter's insurance is simply not within that budget. They don't have that on their mind. A lot of us don't even know what it is until it is too late, like in this instance. We are a forgotten and marginalized group, especially during this time where we can't ask for help for many different reasons. There are no written leases for a lot of us. A lot of it is oral agreements that leads to a lack of documentation, so that when they do need to present the documents, they don't have it. And a lot of us are undocumented folks, so that leads to the fear of getting a written lease and agreement. So they just simply fear coming forward and out of the shadows asking for these financial assistance. So I asked the committee to pursue legislative action to overcome this housing and insurance gap that we are currently facing within the Latino community as well as our other immigrant communities. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the gentleman in the second row and then right up front.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to start to say thank you guys for this opportunity. Thank you, Senator. Well, I'm going to try to explain because my English is not really good. I am an immigrant Latino, and I have the same situation because, like many people, we lost everything in the fire. So in this moment, we don't have nothing. And we are trying to find some solutions, but if we want to go to some place, for all the things we need the social security, we need the insurance, and the problem is like many people, we don't have that. So I want to tell you, we need help because in this moment we don't have nothing. So we are very, I don't know how you say, but it's very sad for all of us because we don't know what to do, and we are very desperate because we are with this situation. We are not trying to take advantage about this situation. We just want to receive some help of you guys. And I think if you can consider that the same situation that help to us with that, because we don't have the insurance, we don't have the social security, but we're people like all the people here. So if you can help us with that, it's going to be very good. And thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much. The seat is open for whoever would like to testify next. Good morning.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Mahelani Strong. I'm with Insurance Associates. I am the only brick and mortar independent insurance agency in Lahaina, and we are still standing. Grateful for that in Calvi Business Center. We go way back. I guess I don't think you remember me. I used to serve the West Maui Improvement Foundation Executive Director, following my brother Zeke Kabua.
No, I remember. I bring back memories now.
Yeah, like, boy, we both got gray. Gentlemen and lady, what I'd like to address today is the issues that we're having as the insurance agent, as the insurance carrier. Many of the carriers I represent are actually here today to support this, but the problem we're having is access. And since day 4, I've been at every organization with a 4-letter acronym, trying to get a consolidated effort, a group, a van maybe with 15 adjusters, and we had that ready to go within the first 10 days. To access Lahaina is all we needed. Give us one road we can go down, and these adjusters were willing to adjust every single home, regardless of carrier or assignment. And like I said, every agency, FEMA, MEMA, HEMA, Maui Fire Department, Maui Police Department, left out a few 3-letter ones, but you know, everybody was contacted, even just trying to get into our office space, which was directly behind the barrier to get things was such a hard task. Even though the building was standing, we understand it was for our safety and such, but we're at a time where I have families that are stranded in California because their building is still standing in Kahoma. but they can't gain access to verify that there's actual smoke damage in it. So the insurance carriers have a limit of $20,000 in loss of use that they can give them. They've blown through that in 1 month because it's just been, just 1 week at a time, not knowing. And so you have these people that are waiting to make a decision that's going to change the rest of their lives, but they can't do it because 1, they don't have the funds, and 2, they don't have the communication, which has been the #1 issue. Multiple emails. I walked into the EOC where I'm not supposed to be just to get somebody's attention to hear us out, to be heard. And it was great. It ended with Josiah, I'm going to forget it now. Apologies. And that was after the last big committee meeting that we had here in Lahaina, where Governor, Mayor, and Chief of Police was there present and let us know who we needed to talk to in order for access. And it was really simple. Daryl Oliveira for commercial access, and Joshua Inishita, is it? I apologize if I get that wrong, for the residential. And still no reply. Emails sent, no reply. And at this point, we urge you guys, a lot of adjusters that were willing to do this, because one person in one community was able to sneak by a adjuster. That one home got adjusted. They said, oh yeah, we already closed our claim. Then it spreads through the community, and I get a call from my insurer going, how is it you guys were able to adjust that claim? I was like, we don't have access. What do you mean? Then I go to my carriers and I go, how are you able to adjust that claim? And I pass it on, and they go, then they find out it was because they snuck someone past, somebody who knew somebody, and that's how they got in. We can consolidate this effort. We can get it done. We can get everybody on the same page and turn it. And that's what we want to do. Lahaina knows where it hurts, and you have a great resource right here in Lahaina. Again, the only brick and mortar independent agency I bought here, my book of business is 40 years old. So I insured them, their child, their grandchildren, and the businesses that they operated. Over 483 claims, myself alone, not including the other agents here, which I'd like to introduce you folks to. I have the only Spanish-speaking agent. His name is Arturo Ortiz, sitting in the back there. Brought him onto my team because I knew that was the most underserved community in West Maui, was the Spanish community, the Spanish-speaking community. But if there's anything we can do to help, I implore you, let us help. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to stage my office. We're even having an insurance hub this weekend on Friday, or actually tomorrow, where anybody, doesn't matter if I'm their agent or not, any carrier, they can come and get answers. Because I'm not just helping my people, I'm helping the other ones that have been abandoned to themselves and have been tricked by public adjusters and attorneys who promise them one reward, but even those people can't get in to adjust the claim. So please help us concert this effort so that we can get this done quickly. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an open microphone for anyone from the public who would like to testify. Please proceed. Yeah. If you could just introduce yourself first. Thank you.
My name is Danielle Cook. I'm a Lahaina resident. I'm not prepared today. I just found out about this, but I did think that it was important to say something on any legislation that might be possible for our policy limits. Being asked to create a personal belongings spreadsheet that is then going to be depreciated is very overwhelming. And I just, for everyone to have to sit there and do that, why couldn't we just have the limit that our policy has agreed to give us, for that, for our dwelling, with the extra percentages that are already in place. So anything that might be possible to have, just something to protect people, to be able to get their full limits that are due to them.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else from the community present that would like to testify? Okay, so what I would like to do is we're going to move to our remote testifiers, and we're going to take them all. And then I'll do one more call in the room, and then we will recess to allow the state insurance division to prepare their briefing presentation. So if we can move to Zoom, I'll give a second for everyone on Zoom to prepare themselves. The first registered testifier we have online is Heidi Speedy. Do we have Heidi? Good. Good morning. Please proceed.
Good morning. I'm Heidi Speedy. Our family had a boat in the harbor for 31 years, and we acknowledge boats are way less important than houses. We totally get that. But since we got this opportunity to meet with you, we're hoping that the 2 questions that I present can help give some answers to vessel owners who are under jurisdiction of Coast Guard rather than land agencies. And then the over 40 of us who lost boats that had jobs attached to them. Our financial situation lets us be able to answer the former employees that we had about their future and their jobs, hopefully back on Maui in Lahaina. The Coast Guard alluded on a meeting that they held with the boat owners on August 15th that the harbor cleanup, salvage, and recovery of boats would be federalized. On August 20th, we asked the Coast Guard if that harbor salvage would be federalized, and if it was true that what we heard that FEMA would then at later time pursue our insurance companies for reimbursement. Every week we've submitted the exact same question to the Coast Guard, and they have not answered yet. The federal contracts are more expensive than our insurance companies hiring a Honolulu salvage companies themselves. We don't have a Maui salvage company here. When anything happens, we usually just help each other out, boat to boat, person to person, resource to resource with a high tide. Our question is, how could our insurance company pay for a job that they didn't price, approve, or observe was being done conscientiously? We also asked that if that's the case, where there's nothing we can do, we aren't as powerful as the federal government, it is our property, it does have insurance, and it affects our future rates, could the Coast Guard put in writing that this federalized cleanup salvage not go against our loss record, as we automatically, everyone in this room, everyone is going to get their insurance rates increased, and we want to give our jobs back, to our crew? Is that something that the Coast Guard could do or offer us? And then, like Mahealani said, I was at that same meeting where the names of Mr. Oliveira, Mr. Noshita, I think we even tried Jordan Molina. We asked about our SBA adjusters being allowed to the harbor, our insurance adjusters being allowed to the harbor. And every disaster professional we've ever spoken to who does this for a living said they've never been denied access to the property, even if the owners can't be there, just the professionals. And we haven't gotten any answers from those, even, the Maui County counterparts. And then just a side note of all the Mala boats with insurance claims trying to get access to their vessels, we would have to swim the insurance agents to the boat because we are not allowed to use the Mala ramp. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much for testifying. And just to note to everyone in the meeting, the committee does intend to record all of the open questions that are not within the jurisdiction of the State Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, and put out those questions to the appropriate entities. So feel free to ask all the questions, and then please stay in touch with us as well. We will try and run down answers to some of these open issues. Next online, we have Thomas Milkrick. Thank you. Victor Brock. Karen Stewart. Okay. I'd also like to note we have written testimony that was submitted to the committee from Alice Lee of the Maui County Council, Timothy Dayton of GEICO, and Evan Oue of the Hawaii Association for Justice. So that's all the registered testimony that we have for this briefing. I'll go back out to the community one more time. Is there anyone else who would like to testify at this point? Okay, please come on. Good morning.
Good morning. Should I go down?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I'm not sure if this is the right meeting, but
sure it is. If you can start with your name just for the record.
Okay.
Yes, yes it is.
My name is Ananda Stone. I'm a Lahaina resident that lives from about 2 blocks over there in the burn zone. My question today is, what do we do if the insurance companies don't give their clients the right amount of money? This is a problem that I'm hearing from so many of my neighbors and so many of my friends and residents of Lahaina. And are the state representatives, are you able to do anything about that to help support the homeowners? My personal situation is my mother-in-law owns our house. I live in the main house. My son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter lived in the Ohana. So those are 2 different houses. The insurance company is saying only the main house was covered in the policy, and the Ohana is what burned down. So the main house is standing, and they want to just give insurance money for painting and roofing instead of for the house that burned down. So meanwhile, my son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter are living on the mainland because they don't have a house. And currently, my mother-in-law has no money to pay for that house. So she's seeking, professional help. And that's the situation we're in. And I know that I've spoke to so many others that with their GoFundMe and their insurance money, they still cannot afford to build their house. And that's going to force all of these people to move from their homes. And many of these homes are multi-generational. I may be Caucasian, but my family is married into Hawaiian family, so we are multi-generational here on Maui. My sons were 4th generation going up to Lahaina Luna High School. Sorry, I don't like public speaking, but I just feel like nobody else has brought this up here, and it's something that's really important right now for everyone in Lahaina. Thank you.
Thank you very much for testifying. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? Okay, please. And if anyone from the back is interested, please, again, there's a seat right up here in the front. You can sit down and I will recognize you as soon as possible.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you guys for being here. My name is Wendy Laurel Shevlin, and I am a longtime Lahaina resident and an attorney. I have many clients that have houses that are still standing in a burn zone, and they're having a hard time with their insurance that says, oh, we'll just get some cleaning and you'll be fine. Meanwhile, we're hearing all this talk about toxic ash, and I know for a fact the Hawaii companies are not used to dealing with this cleaning, don't really know how to test for it or clean it correctly. Folks are hearing from mainland hygienists that the toxic ash could be in their insulation. They may need to take down walls, but meanwhile, the insurance companies and cleaning companies here are not addressing that. I have one client whose home is in the Shark Pit neighborhood. It is the only home standing for blocks around. Her insurance company is saying, well, that's not a problem. You're going to be able to live there again. And she feels like her home is very contaminated and going to be sitting in the middle of a huge construction zone. And her insurance company said the only way they can pay out on the policy is if our insurance commissioner calls it a total loss. And I'm wondering if the insurance commissioner has any plans to do that for some properties that are the only ones standing in neighborhoods that have been destroyed, and what the timeline would look like for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, did we have someone else? Of course. Good morning. Val, can you go?
My name is Michelle Voltran, and I'm living in Lahaina for 35 years. And I'm so emotional. I'm living on the Wainea Street. My whole neighbor burned out. Somehow I have a good roof. My house still standing, but it's not livable. So I've been displaced to Kiev ever since from August 8th. Never been back. I cannot see my home. I called my insurance. They told me that, oh, my house did not burn down, according from a Google map. They still see my roof, but obviously it's a war zone. We cannot live in there. There's no electricity, no water. And I have to, my car exploded on Front Street while I'm trying to run away. So I got caught in the fire. So I had to jump to the ocean, me and my husband, behind the seawall rocks for 12 hours. I'm so lucky that I'm alive, but 100% that I died twice because there's about 20 cars on that Front Street. And then every time the car exploded, we couldn't breathe. It's a miracle that I'm a warrior type person. When the moment I make the decision to jump down to the ocean, I have a backpack with all my paper, my driver license. I look in the back of my car in the middle seat. I have one case of water. I took 5 bottles of waters. I stuffed in my backpack, my husband's backpack. I crawled out to the rocks. Thanks to the rocks, that's why we are alive. I don't swim. I couldn't swim. So I crawled to the rock. We dip our body to the water. Up here is only left up here, but above me, all the cars exploded one by one. Everything surrounding me, burning. We couldn't breathe. So in the rock, I couldn't open my eyes, so hurt. I thought I'd blind already. So I'm searching for water and drink. Every time our throat closed, I drink water. That's why we could breathe. One time, my husband and I have a jacket, and we have to tie our head together. Because 100% we died, we couldn't breathe. And then we tied our head together to make sure that if the wave washes out there, they fight our bodies together. And it landed on August 9, our daughter's 25th birthday. And we hold hands, we said, okay, at least we work hard 7 days a week for years, everything in that house. Finally, I have 2 daughters who is one just graduated master as a speech pathology. My second daughter just graduated as registered nurse in Washington State. We told each other we want to reduce working 5 days a week and try to enjoy life. And this thing happened, it's upside down. My life, my main thing is my house not livable. There's no way I can go back to live in that house. I'm gonna kill myself, die myself in that house. It's a war zone. It's toxic. It's, you name it. My whole neighbor burned down. How I'm gonna live with myself? People gonna rob me. I cannot live like that. Now I talk to my insurance. They didn't tell me yes, they didn't tell me no, but I can tell, they tell me there's no way that total loss. We're gonna pay for smoke damage, whatever. My question is, there's no water, no electricity. How can I live in that house with no neighbor and they just clean it up for us? Then, that is my question. Right now, I still, every morning, I cannot sleep. 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, I go to the window. I want to make sure there's no fire because I'm terrified. My life upside down. I cannot live like this and I cannot go back to my house. The insurance, I don't think they're gonna pay us enough. And I cannot go back to that house. I'm gonna die in that house with that neighbor. After I jump to the ocean, right now my husband take me from here to here. The whole thing, I say, stop. And I told him, oh my God. And The windy, strong windy, I'm scared. Everything, I'm scared. Somebody make noise right next to me, I jump up and scared. I mean, my life is totally upside down. And I'm here to ask, what do I have to do with our insurance? Since my house stands still but not livable in a war zone and toxic. Who do I contact and what do I have to do? And we 50 years old. I don't want to take another loan until I'm 80 years old. And I work hard enough my whole life. We from Vietnam, 7 days a week for years, support our kids. You know, now the only time I need help. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for testifying. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Well, so she already went. Everybody gets to go once, and then we'll take you. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is this thing on?
Yes. If you can begin with your name for the record.
Hello, I'm Mikolo Lindsay. My family property is on Front Street. We have a legacy, multi-generational. We've been here for 1800s. Lost everything in the fire. Trying to participate in these things to see what we can do to make things smoother for us. First of all, I'd like to express my sympathy for everybody here. And I'm sorry that we all have to be here under these circumstances and situations. So my aloha goes out to you and your families, and I hope you guys are all okay. And just know that a lot of us are here for you. And it's just been amazing the amount of support that we've gotten through this community. So thank you everybody for your love and support. With the insurance situation, you know, as we go through the process of insurance prior to the fires, it's about cutting costs, right? So there's a difference between replacement and reproduction costs. Replacement value and new materials, only looking at what we need to do to replace what we lose. Not thinking, we're gonna be able to build something else. So obviously, when you don't even think about these supply and demand curves at the time too. So basic knowledge, your supply is minimal, your demand's up, cost is going up. So there's no way any of us is gonna have enough to cover any kind of rebuild, at least you know, without taking out loans and stuff. So all that stuff is coming, and that's on us for not thinking this way. But I think we can do a better job in preparing other communities to look at what's coming down the line, should they have to use their insurance policies, right? So the thing I would like to ask for you is to try to prevent, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of information and misinformation. So if we can have some support in minimizing any potential fraud that can be happening, approved lists for contractors, architects, landscape architects, and those kinds of things that can come up so that we don't get inadvertently chased down a different, or take a different path that's one that's more beneficial financially, that have dire consequences down the line. So perhaps that's an idea. I just wanted to float. I'm pretty sure you've already run into that. I just needed to say that. In the short term, I believe many of us in our short-term uses are okay. Has been met by many different organizations and the community groups out there. It's the mid and long term that I'm really concerned about, especially when it comes to the availability of housing. I believe most of the people I've spoken to, myself included, West Maui people want to stay in West Maui. We don't want to be living out in Kula or any place else. Not to say anything that's wrong up there. We just want us, this is home. This is our happy space. This is where we need to stay. The generation above me, my mom included, I understand, having been there firsthand and seen it myself, they didn't want to leave. Their life, their memories, their legacy is all in that space. And for them to leave, they didn't want to. I told my mom, come a point, yes or no, same result, you coming with me, even if I gotta carry you out of here, it's happening. Every single person in here has a should've, could've answer for you. Should have done a lot of different things, but we didn't. We did the best we could, and that thought process, with the amount of intensity of the situation in the moment, we just did what we could, right? So, you know, moving forward in the mid and long-term ranges, when it comes to rental use, we want to stay in West Maui. Rents are going up, supply is down. right? Demand is huge. So how can we put in effective rent controls to allow for people that want to stay on West Maui, right? That's a big one for us. My insurance will pay up until August 8th. Well, nothing's going to happen until then. We're looking at a year before I can maybe even camp out on my own home. That's where I want to be. Given the opportunity, I'd rather just camp out of my house with a porta potty, a generator, and I'll call it good and start the cleanup and work from there. That's where I want to be. That's where home is. Nothing else would make me happier than being home. And I believe that's true for a lot of us too. So rent controls, any type of housing situations that does pop up, there's a lot of talk on tiny homes, different types of home processes that are coming up. Developers that are wanting to build fast-tracking homes within an 8-month time frame. I think it's going to take a lot of different answers to fulfill the needs. The other need that hasn't been spoken about is during this rebuild phase, we're going to have thousands of workers. Where are we going to put them? One of the best answers I have heard in the many circles that I traverse is, how about we bring in a cruise ship and house them on a cruise ship, right? Costs will be low. Everyone's got someplace to stay. That's at least something to consider and think about if that's even a possibility. Because these cruise ships, which is supposed to start coming to Lahaina, is not going to come to Lahaina. They're going to use other ports of calls. But there is an opportunity to house people that way, right? And I just wanted to say, it's not acceptable for us to be moving away. All of us do want to stay here. So whatever rent controls we can put in place is going to be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Apologies for not getting it all out the first time. Senators, again, thank you. One thing I wanted to ask is if the committee is aware of what happened in Pahoa after the lava flow. Okay. So what's happening now is there's a lot of commercial properties that are uninsurable. There's not one carrier that operates in the state of Hawaii, a surplus carrier that will write for commercial property in Pahoa. My biggest concern is, and I addressed that with Insurance Commissioner Gordon Ito last year. I said, what are we doing about this? Because we do have HPIA, which is something that Legislature did for residences, but it excludes commercial. And we know that the mass majority of commercial operations in Lahaina have been majorly affected in the burn zone. So with that being spoken, is there anything as a legislation you folks can do to begin now to ensure that when those buildings begin to come back up, that we have a market for these folks? Without the proper infrastructure, we're looking at the possibility of a wildfire rating like how California has. We have a protection class rating, 1 through 10, and then now with the potential of having a wildfire rating is very possible. I hope not, but if we can start that now, we won't run into a hurdle in the future. When I did speak to Insurance Commissioner Ito, he said it takes a lot of time to put that legislation into place. And there's nothing like being the ones to forerun it now so the next generation doesn't have this hurdle like Pahoa is facing right now. So thank you again for letting me.
Thank you very much. Before we head into seconds in earnest, is there anyone else? Oh, please. And then Val will go to you. Good morning.
Good morning. Aloha. Mahalo. Mahalo yoko. No. Thank you for being here, everybody, and hearing our stories and our traumas. My name is Jessica Kailani Ross. I'm infinite lineal descendant of Lahaina through Honokohau Valley and Oloalu. I live in Lahaina at the time of the fire. I was able to evacuate and able to come home to a standing home. My backyard burned, and so we returned to our home and attempted to live there and experienced bronchial asthma, which I don't have and I've never had. So my doctor ordered me to go to a shelter. So my insurance company called me the next day to find out if I needed to file a claim, and I said yes. And then my claim number was texted to me immediately after. That was Allstate Insurance. They've been fantastic throughout this whole thing, staying in communication and following through for me. The problem is they have like 4 different adjusters for all different things. There's inside, there's outside, there's on top, there's below, then there's contents, and there's a different adjuster for each one that I have to deal with. And that's time consuming and confusing and frustrating. So if we could make regulation to consolidate that, that would be nice, but they're all, very helpful and quick to be here and respond to all my questions and needs. My concerns are regarding cleaning and getting back in the house and a sufficient amount of cleaners for all the houses that are standing, and licensure and making sure that they're all legal. So like Ikolo said, a list of certified, I know we can go on the website and check the certification of companies is one way to make sure everybody is legitimate. But a list of cleaners is good for those of us who have the fortunate responsibility of going through all these cleaning and insurance and adjusters and cleaning up burned areas. One thing I want to say that I've also said to the Board of Water Supply that I feel applies to you and insurance and your responsibility in caring for this INA is that we need to put our money into an environmental army and restore our forest from the top down. It contributes to Hukiame Kawai Ilalo. It pulls the water from the Levelanis to the Aina. Our forests are decimated. These are not our forests. These green mountains are invasive species for the most part. We need to bring back our koa, our leipua, our iliahi, and our native forest for medicine, for bringing the rain from the heavens to the earth, which is what they did before they got replaced by people who thought they were planting better things than what we had here already. And we've learned they're not better, they're worse, they're invasive, and they lead to dehydration and drought. So an environmental army to start replanting our forests to bring back the water, that's the first thing we need, so we have water to manage for everybody. Then we don't have to have water wars. Also, it brings food as we bring back our ulu for Malulu Lele. Lahaina was famous for its ulu grove, which brought medicine as well as food and shade, and it kept Lahaina cool. So we don't have this drought and this heat wave that dried up all the houses and the grass and causes tinder cases like we have in hot Lahaina. It wasn't hot in the days of old because we had trees and we had water. So let's bring that back, please. Let's put our money into reforestation because it will help the economy, will bring jobs, you'll bring water, and then everybody will be able to share the water. We can bring back businesses and tourists, but until we restore that, Hawaii, Maui, this Aina is the only place where us Native people have to call home. And we will stay on the beaches and in the valleys and in the mountains if there's nowhere else to stay, and we will survive because we know how. And we like share, but we need our forests back, number one. Please, mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, please. And again, the seat right up front, right here, is open for anyone else who would like to testify. And then I can just call you directly afterward. Good morning.
Aloha, gang. How's it going? Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cord Munoz. I'm born and raised here in Lahaina, and I've just been doing independent research and trying to aid survivors and victims in, anything, financial aid, insurance questions, just stuff I hear from people every day, their everyday concerns, yeah. I actually interviewed Annie Barber. She was the first testifier too with United Policyholders. She had a lot of great information. And in fact, United Policyholders website has a lot of great information for us. uphelp.org/2023 HI capitalized wildfires is the site that they created just for our community. So it's to let us know that insurance is a vehicle to get closer to rebuilding, but also there's lots of common issues that they face with that. A lot of them were addressed already here today, but everyone's situation is pretty specific. So if you can get there and then get in contact with your insurance agent, you guys can work together to get it done. They have a quick checklist here. I just gotta read it off. I thought this addresses a lot of things we talked about. Like number one, it's take care of your family and their immediate needs first. Finding comfortable and convenient housing is a priority. Your insurance company should help you find a place of similar size. That's your right as an insurance policy holder, that they owe you a quality of living equal to the standard that you were paying for and you're covering with your policy. Take photos of your property before any cleanup or debris removal happens. If that's possible, we talked about expediting opening as soon as EPA is out clean. Yeah, so it's safe for them to go in there. Start a recovery journal. You should take notes on who you talked to, the number, their numbers, email addresses, dates and times, what was said. That way you can refer to it later and you know exactly what people promised or what you said to and agreed to. Always ask your insurance company for cash advances for living expenses and replacing personal property and necessities. So once you file with FEMA and you get a case number, they send you to SBA to apply for a loan. And once you get rejected from that, you can go back to FEMA for a grant. But usually they'll tell you that if you have insurance, they want to settle with your insurance first before they can give you grant money. So opening up for inspections is got to be paramount so people can get those grants and additional aid. Keep all receipts while you're displaced. So people don't know, may not know, but you can get reimbursed for a lot of things: rent, clothes, baby supplies, food, like immediate costs. Like they should have money for that. Okay. When we move to a new place, they have I think it's ALE. I'm not sure. I'm not an insurance person. Got it. Okay, so that ALE is supposed to cover typically 12 to 24 months of like additional living expenses from living in a new place. You're allowed to live in a place that's equal to that standard. So that amount is dependent on the difference between your original standard and where you are living now. Like the additional expenses occurred. You have to drive more, you have gas, like all that stuff. I think there was a memorandum about extending that to 36 months.
Your policy is different.
Yeah. I think maybe if we could get all the insurance carriers on a path to extending that period, because additional living expenses are going to be a reality for people rebuilding their homes, not just 1 or 2 years from now, but perhaps 3, 5. It could take a while. Even in California, the wildfires, it's only 95% in Santa Rosa, where Annie's from, and then 25%, 30%, I think it was, where Paradise, California is. And the difference between those two was Paradise is like underinsured or non-insured, and then Santa Rosa was mostly insured. But expediting like the planning departments, permitting, cutting permitting fees, like those things were all instrumental. And I was at the county council meeting last night. We brought this up with them. So anything you guys could do to help, that would be great. Avoid paying off your mortgage without a plan to rebuild or replace your home. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I think they work with your bank to offer mortgage deferrals. So at least they tack it onto the back end of your loan so you don't have to pay it right away. So I recommend everybody gets that started. And then if you want like an SBA loan, it's pretty cheap. It's like 2.5%, and they'll wrap around your old mortgage too, even if you do take the mortgage deferral. So in addition to like once your insurance covers, you can use SBA as an additional amount of funding to cover construction costs and code upgrades too. So if you want to rebuild your house, with like fireproof materials or better building materials, insurance will allocate you more money, like a specific percentage. I think it's 20% of your claim to rebuild towards those materials. Then FEMA land clearing is free. Well, technically, but it doesn't have to be paid for by you. It's between the insurance company and FEMA. They use different contractors to do it, but they will clear your land for free. So I recommend everybody signs up for that. They are going to have you sign a form that says they are going to like take custody of your land, but they will give it back as soon as it's clean. And there's no legal way they can keep your land. So I've heard that concern. Don't be afraid of that. Do not rush into signing contracts. Get copies of all the paperwork you sign. That's a no-brainer. An insurance adjuster will be assigned to your claim. Their job is to estimate your loss and issue checks for all policy benefits owed. Adjuster skills vary. So it's like there's all these different guys. You want to get the most money for your property. So you have to realize the value of your property and realize that you have rights. If you already filed with your insurance and they, paid you out already, you can still call them back and you can negotiate with them. If not, there are a lot of advocates out there that help you get the most. And then I have some of their numbers and contacts if you guys want that after, just let me know. Inventorying your damaged and destroyed property is time consuming and awfully painful. There are online resources and printed resources. This is a book. I don't know if they can see that. But this book's called the Disaster Recovery Handbook and Household Inventory Guide. There's inventory forms for insurance companies on personal belongings. It's a pretty complicated process and it can be overwhelming. So recommend everybody sits down and there's a process. You get in every room and you can imagine in your head what there is. And you have to write out what it was, when you bought it, how much it costs to replace it, and the condition the item was in when the fire happened. I like this one. Give your insurer a chance to do the right thing, but be prepared to stand up for your rights and get help if you're not being treated fairly. Hawaii has laws to protect you. Okay, so I don't know the specific laws, but there should be. Okay, register with FEMA, SBA, talked about that. Okay, last one. Recognize that recovering from a major or total loss takes time. So pace yourself. I think everyone's in a rush to be like, we need to get back home, we need to do this and that, but there's like a lack of information and continuity between everyone's messages, even between state, county, governor, mayor, and then us, like what we want as people too. So I think we all have to come together on the same page before, we can move forward and actually start helping people. And organization is going to be paramount for this coming soon. Sister, the Vietnamese sister, okay. Hey, for you, uphelp.org/partial. They have guidance on partial losses and smoke damage. Okay. And there's other options in insurance programs. If your house did burn down and you are traumatized or it's toxic and you don't want to go back, ask your insurance policy about perhaps buying back. So they'll assign a value to your property. Sometimes they'll just pay for the value of the house. But when they give you that settlement claim, you can ask them to find a house in another location equal to that of what you had. Ask your insurance claim adjuster to find it for you. Those guys are supposed to work for you. So put them to work. Ask them to do that, and then if that's an option for you, then maybe you can take that insurance claim and move to another area just north or south or whatever you need to do. But everyone's different, and I actually appreciate all you guys coming here to see us from all your different islands. I know it's a big trip to come out here and see all this damage. And hopefully it touches you guys how it's touched all of us, and we can come together. And there is a template for success of other towns who've been through wildfires. And I think we can take that template and probably make it the best. We can be a shining example. And then Sista, who was just up here, was talking about land management and forest restoration. That's gonna be an important part over the next 5-6 years. Because if it's still just as dry up there, this is gonna happen again. There's such large tracts of unmanaged land up there. I feel like we could hire, we can make it a whole bureau. We could hire twice as many firefighters, build twice as many fire stations. And when they're not fighting fires, they can be up there cutting fire breaks. We can do controlled burns. And there's science that shows that controlled burning actually helps native plant life restore itself through effective forest management. But there's nonprofits in the USA that actually do that. So there's funding and stuff for all this, all these ideas. But thanks for your time, guys. I appreciate you. And then, if anybody from Lahaina specifically wants to join the Lahaina Strong Facebook page, we have a lot of information there for people too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have the DCCA Insurance Division coming up next, and I'm sure they appreciate you doing a bunch of their work for them before they come up. Luckily, we have really hard questions for them afterwards, so they still got to work. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to testify? Okay, do we have anyone else that has come online? We had a number of individuals who registered that we didn't get to. Okay, well then we will take a short recess so that we can set up the State Insurance Division's presentation. Recess. Okay, we are reconvening this Commerce and Consumer Protection Committee field briefing. We will now move to a briefing and presentation by the Insurance Division of the Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you, Senator Keoho Kalole and members of the committee. My name is Jerry Bump. I'm the Deputy Insurance Commissioner. Gordon Ito, the Insurance Commissioner, definitely wanted to be here today, but he already had a pre-planned trip. I'm also joined today by a few other individuals from my division, as well as our Department Director and our PIO. I'll first introduce, this is Sam Thompson. He is our Compliance and Enforcement Branch Chief. He works directly with the consumers who call our office and want to have inquiries and file complaints, and his staff handles that. We also have here Roland Taruya, who is a rate and policy analyst who primarily works in the property and casualty lines of insurance. And then also we have our department director behind me is Nadine Ondo, and our PIO, Public Information Officer, William Mew. I will begin the presentation if that's okay. So on our presentation, our agenda for today is to go over these 5 items. Kind of give just a really brief overview of the insurance division, what our response has been, what we saw from the industry in the first few weeks, the current state, and what comes next. So real briefly, the insurance division is responsible for overseeing the insurance industry in the state of Hawaii, which covers every aspect of insurance, including the insurance companies themselves, insurance agents, adjusters, self-insurers, captive insurance companies. The functions of the insurance division are organized into 7 branches. For example, I mentioned Sam here is in our compliance and enforcement branch. Roland is in our rate and policy analysis branch. We also have financial surveillance and examination of companies, licensing primarily of producers, agents, adjusters, and various other entities, health insurance, captive insurance, and insurance fraud investigation. All these branches work together to administer the insurance code, to safeguard public interest, monitor insurance company activities, and regulate for solvency, and ensure fairness in the marketplace. So moving into our response. So one of the first things we did was develop a web page. So that's listed in the slide there. We welcome and encourage everybody to visit that site. It has multiple handouts that I've also listed below. Talk about fire claim information, automobile, fire, storm claim damage, frequently asked questions, and a post-disaster guide that we've utilized from our national organization, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. The frequently asked questions have been translated into 10 different languages. So we hope that helps. If there's another language that we need, we would be more than welcome to hear about that. Later in the slide, I'll have our contact information with our email and our phone number, and we highly encourage anybody who has any questions as a result of us going through this today, or just anything as related to your insurance process, we encourage you to contact us. The other thing, so the day after the Maui wildfire disaster occurred, the commissioner had the authority to declare, to essentially waive the licensing requirements for non-resident independent adjusters to come into the state. We knew that the insurance companies themselves were going to need help to work with, to get the claims processed. So he wanted to ensure that, again, that we can timely respond to property owners' needs. The non-resident independent adjusters are contracted by insurance companies to assist with claims processing. This declaration did not apply to non-resident public adjusters. Public adjusters assess and evaluate claims on behalf of policyholders for a fee to be paid to the policyholder. To be paid by the policyholder to the public adjuster. A week later, the commissioner has issued 3 memorandums. This was the first one. So the first one was to encourage insurers, and again, I use the word encourage. We can't force these insurance companies who have contracts with policyholders, but we've encouraged them to work with the residents who lost their homes, businesses, and employment due to the wildfires. Insurance commissioners encourage the insurers to work with their insureds to ensure that coverage continues, that policies do not lapse, and to do the following: refrain from canceling or non-renewing policies due to non-payment during this time of hardship, and grant a grace period for premium payments to be made. Work with insureds on a structured payment plan for late premium payments, waive late fees and penalties, extend timeframes to complete property and automobile inspections or undergo medical examinations, and continue working with insureds for a period of 60 days after this emergency has passed, or as long as reasonably practical. The next memorandum the commissioner issued was on September 1st. This is requiring insurers to report financial information regarding claims related to wildfire and wind damage. We know this, we call this a data call. This financial insurance information will be collected to use for multiple reasons. One of our primary ones is to monitor the solvency of our domestic insurers, making sure that they're financially sound and can make claim payments to all their insureds. Additionally, data calls are commonly used by state insurance departments to determine the total number of claims and insured losses due to a disaster. This data is collected based on aggregate data for lines of business covered by the insurers and not on individual properties. 2 weeks later, the commissioner issued a memorandum encouraging insurers to extend ALE, or additional living expenses, to 36 months, still subject to the policy limits that the policyholder procured. The ALE time period varies among insurers. It's often 12 months from the date of the event, but many insurers might not have any expiration. Recovery for Lahaina will take a significant amount of time. And for this reason, this is the reason why the commissioner issued this memorandum. We encourage policyholders to contact their insurance company to see if they will provide at least 36 months of ALE and to obtain information on any policy limits. We also encourage policyholders to be prudent in budgeting the use of ALE benefits. If there are other federal and state resources available, the division recommends using these before ALE if possible. Another part of our response was outreach events. So as soon as the DRC opened at Maui College on August 17th, we've been staffing there. And then when the Lahaina Civic Center opened up in September, we moved our operations from there over to here. So we've been at the DRCs every day for the last 6 weeks. We've created 2 insurance and banking assistance center events where we brought in insurers, banks, mortgage lenders. These were held on back-to-back weekends on August 26th, 27th, and September 1st and 2nd at Whalers Village. We also attended the Federal Resource Fair on August 26th, attended the Business Forum in Kapalua, and attended the Filipino Resource Fair held here just this last weekend. We estimate we've assisted over 300 individuals with their insurance questions at this point. So some of the immediate response we saw from industry was insurers and agents started outreach shortly after the fire. Insurance division encouraged those insurers to use geo-mapping for claims processing. We knew that access to those properties was going to be difficult and going to take time. Physical claim processing locations were established by many insurers with tents set up by August 15th and more added in the following days. We also saw that most insurers have reached out and contacted their policyholders. So current state, so most insureds are in the claim process now. They continue to work with we encourage them to continue to work with your insurer and adjuster to submit forms as requested. As some of the testifiers mentioned, we have to give time for the insurance companies to, process this. One of the difficulties is getting access to the properties. We also want to state that be careful of people pressuring you to sign contracts to provide assistance. Understand what costs will be charged. Be careful of scams. Do not sign your entire claim payment over to a contractor. If not satisfied with timeliness of response, contact our office at the email address I've listed there, insurance@dcca.hawaii.gov or 808-586-2790. If you have any insurance questions at all, please email or call our office. What comes next? So once allowed to re-enter the area, coordinate access with your insurer, adjuster, agent if they need to look at your property. Take precautions before entering the area. When starting actual repairs, make sure you check if the contractor is licensed and see if there are any complaints against the contractor before signing. Licensee status and complaint lookup is on our DCCA site. This is not insurance, but DCCA also regulates a lot of these licensees. And that's at businesscheck.hawaii.gov. Contact your insurance company regarding supplemental payments if additional damage is discovered during the repair or rebuilding process. And that concludes our presentation. We're here for any of the questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions? Senator Owa.
Jerry, thanks for the presentation. And when you gave it to us prior, I asked the same question. I'll bring it up again. Just kind of trying to gauge the scope here of how many people were affected when in Puna, when the lava overran the homes. The county would give us the numbers of how much homes are affected, how many people might be qualifying for the payout, the small one at the time. Is there any idea of how many people are affected right now? How many properties were affected, and how many people? We heard from people who were representing people who don't have insurance. How many? The percentage of the affected may not have insurance, may not be covered.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Senator. Let me start with, so our data call, we're trying to get that information from the insurers to know how many claims they would have. As far as properties, I am aware there is a site, I think, that's being updated by FEMA called ArcGIS. It has a map, it shows all the properties that are damaged. And the last time I looked at it, it was about 2,000 properties, roughly, that have been destroyed. The data call that we're going to be getting, it won't necessarily show underinsured or uninsured. We may be able to do some rough estimate of uninsured at a later date, maybe in comparison to the properties we know that are damaged compared to the amount of claims that have been paid, but that it might be difficult to get that information. We don't get information reported to us, and I don't think it's easy for the insurers to easily be able to report individual data.
See what you're saying?
Yeah.
Who would it land on in the state? Would it be through the DCCA to compile that information?
Information as to
what I was asking, one, the affected, and how many insured versus uninsured. I know you're saying it's difficult to get that information.
Yeah, when it comes to insurance information, we can, we're going to try to compile as much information as we can because we know that there's a need for that information for various reasons. So yeah, we will try to compile the insurance related information. If it falls outside of the insurance, I'm not sure who it would land on.
And if I could follow up, for people without insurance, and they're just Chelsea Davis, matter of fact, she did a story with a family who, they were looking at their house and they're like, we don't have insurance, we can't afford to build, we can't afford to move anywhere else, so they're stuck. For those cases, we heard from some of the people in the front here who are representing others in that case. What can they do right now? Do they have anything they can do?
I'm gonna see if Sam has any kind of response to that.
Well, as far as for the insurance division, we would be if you have a policy in force. But the great thing about these DRCs is you can come here, these disaster recovery centers, and you've got access to a lot of different agencies. And so you want to avail yourself of the process that FEMA has, and then eventually work with the SBA on the process on trying to finance some options. As far as also uninsured, the SBA and FEMA may have some resources, information on that as well, because a lot of their processes involve you exhausting your insurance or verifying that you don't have insurance, and then you can avail yourself of some of the stuff that they have. So they may be a resource as well for finding out how many consumers are out there that don't have protection, or maybe have a lower level of protection, and they've got a gap.
But at the state level, we have nothing, aside from the federal, going there, at the state level, we have nothing currently in place to help those who are uninsured, who may have lost everything?
As far as for the insurance department, we don't. Like Department of Human Services, others have helped with other types of benefits and options, but as far as like, some of the counties at a level might have some low interest loan programs. A lot of those are more designed for maybe retrofitting a home, so you could stay there as you age, but those might be some options that people could look at. But my real advice would be to see what's available through the recovery centers, what's available for some of these agencies, because it is kind of a clearinghouse. But as far as the insurance division goes, if you had like an enforced policy, that's something our office can assist with if you have questions on that or how the claim process is going. As far as an agency that you can get those kind of stats from, I don't know. Yeah, you have to find that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chair.
Well, if I can briefly follow up, I mean, there must be someone, and so I'm assuming that might be the kuleana of the broader DCCA, and I'm wondering whether the director in the back might have an idea on whether we're talking about perhaps the Office of Consumer Protection, or I know as it relates to fraud, that's a RICO thing, so you guys are going to give us the same answer, but if the legislature elected to take action in that area, from your assessment, where would that likely fall? I'm assuming it's still going to be in the DCCA?
I'm assuming you're talking about the question is whether or not.
Can we pull up another chair? Sure. Because I'm going to. Thank you, Director, for joining us. I'm sure you're thrilled to be in person right now.
Sort of somewhat blindsided, but not completely. I mean, I know there's many things that are sort of adjunct related to insurance and the issues that are arising. I think, as I understand the question was, what do you do when you have people who are affected that either don't have insurance to cover their loss of their property, or I think it might have also included perhaps underinsured. And I think what we're hearing is, insurance division will be able to deal with anything if there is insurance in place. When you have a situation where someone doesn't have any insurance coverage, I think what was mentioned was you have to look for other agencies and other relief that might be available to help people who are in that situation. I think we heard a number of people who said, for example, they were renting as opposed to being property owners. And so they have a different kind of situation, I guess, in terms of if they didn't have renter's insurance, which is typically something maybe a lot of people don't necessarily sign up for, and what options would be available to them. And I'm thinking, as far as we understand, FEMA has really been looking at what kind of assistance they can provide from a housing standpoint. And I'm not sure how much of that extends into loss of other things like personal property, and whether or not that's another vehicle for relief. In looking at our department, I'm trying to really quickly kind of survey through that list of our divisions. I actually don't see, unless there's some kind of fraud or some sort of some kind of scam or some unlicensed activity that's been affecting consumers, I don't really see that necessarily falling within our area. So that's why perhaps, I don't know if Human Services.
So I guess the follow-up question, the reason why I followed on to Senator Awa's question is, there was a testifier earlier who ran through some I guess guidelines on and advice for the community on where to go look for help. And he specifically mentioned, and this is probably relating to underinsured rather than uninsured, but the process for applying for FEMA in certain cases requiring those individuals to obtain their insurance claim first, or maybe even a denial first before they're eligible, that whole process sounded very confusing. You know, I know a lot of the effort, especially here at the DRC, is to provide a one-stop shop so that regardless of what your circumstance, you can get an answer. I'm wondering what type of communication you folks are working on, because even if it's not your kuleana, you're still fielding questions from people who are looking for answers. And how much coordination have you done, or is there any more that you can do to make sure that if the answer from you guys is going to be no, that you know that there's some sort of communication that you can put forward, PSAs and what have you, so that people can get directed to whoever the one other person is that they might have to talk to, and not have to go, you know, run to multiple other entities to get 3 no's before a yes.
And I appreciate that concern, and it seems like, I'm sure for many people, it's sort of like a quagmire of how to navigate through the process when it's not easy, when you don't have a policy and an insurance company that has limits that can provide for what you need. And I think we do, and I can defer to you guys, in terms of the kind of information we can provide to people who come up to us in the DRC and say, this is my situation, where can I go and what can I do? And hopefully, you know, we've been able to give them some guidance to other agencies, to other departments, perhaps, that might be better armed to be able to address their particular circumstances. Thank you.
Go ahead, and then we'll go to Senator.
I can just slightly mention, so in the initial phases, when the Maui College DRC opened up, for example, and then people were being funneled through, so the first place they would have to do is register with FEMA, and they were pretty good. They had a good setup of, you know, meeting with them, talking about, you know, the process, and then they would get funneled throughout the room, eventually to SBA, and lastly, if there was an actual insurance question or issue, they would come to us. And so I thought that was pretty good because they got to go through that process if they attended the DRC back when it was at Maui College. We take it upon ourselves, our staff, and the people that are staffing the table, to try to understand what other services are in the room. Like you said, if someone comes to our table and maybe their question or that doesn't pertain to insurance, it may be someone else can handle it. We do try to funnel them to the correct person, or even walk them over there, or help them and assist them in any way possible. You know, we've issued the memorandums to try to help, and also try to do press releases, and, you know, the web page that we've created and the handouts that we've created. And we're just trying to get the information out there and make ourselves accessible, because all we want to do is help. And that's why we've been here on island for the last 6 weeks.
Thank you, and I'd encourage you to keep working on that. You know, even before we started this briefing this morning, we heard from some of the emergency management people, you know, behind us in the gym, saying that people are still only starting to trickle in for the first time. And so just because they haven't been coming doesn't mean they've all been helped or know what to do. So thank you. Senator Inouye.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up to Senator Awa's comments and questions with regards to the Puna issue. And being a former mayor, and I'm happy that our director here is a Hilo person as well, very familiar with lava zones. So with the data that I'm glad that our senator had asked if there is data available, and in some instances the differences with, Maui has gone into some real devastation, personally, disasters and deaths. But with the lava zones that we all know, there's not too many insurers or insurance companies because of the designation. If you're in the lava zone 1, 2, 3, and we know that many insurance companies have left the Big Island, in particular the lava zones. So with that said, and the data that was asked is going to be kind of tricky if you started a data collection, because of the uninsured probably couldn't get insurance. And my understanding is the only surviving insurance companies has been Lloyd's of London. So the data that, and going forward, you can't even, because of the designation of the lava zones 1, 2, 3, and I understand the feds are involved with creating and accepting the zones. I don't know if it started from the county's point of view first and the planning agencies and approved by FEMA, but I understand they're coming in with new zones. And I was very surprised to see that they even included going zones 4, 5, 6, and including parts of field. I said, this is ridiculous. Now, having said that, with regards to the, and going back to Maui, I'm kind of happy that you don't have activity like lava in, the activity of Madame Pele, because then you won't have insurance companies here. And so how can you get the data? Because a lot of them couldn't and may not have had insurance. So do you have more or less for the lava, for the 2018 eruption, have you guys started getting information, who's covered and the issues that they have there with regards to Puna?
I don't know if you know, Ro, I don't believe we did a data call. We did an initial data call.
So
yeah, for the 2018 event.
Yes.
Yeah. For the 2018 event, we did do a data call. I'm not sure. I'll turn this over to Roland. He may have something to add.
And I'm glad there's the private insurance companies here too, because maybe they can share with us if they're covering activities like the Big Island and Puna. They can give us information of who's insuring those that want to, because we know that even if you had property there, which many do, but they can't get even mortgages because they can purchase, there's no insurance that would cover.
So at that, shortly after the 2018, we did a data call trying to collect certain information. We didn't try to collect the underinsured or uninsured. That's, by its nature, it's a difficult thing. We were just primarily trying to look for solvency. One of our directives is solvency, trying to make sure the companies that are insuring are capable of paying it.
Okay.
That was our primary goal on that. And just assessing the damage at that point. It was a slow move. It was a slow roll.
Okay. I don't want to belabor the questions with regards to
Puna. I think it's clear we don't know the answer, but I think the question we need to go figure out is how we get that information, because I think it's pretty clear we need it. So I'll recognize Senator McKelvey for a question.
No, actually.
Oh, Senator Richards.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. And one of the recurrent themes that we've been hearing is having adjusters access to damaged properties. And there's been comments made about geo mapping, drone, et cetera. We know that timeliness is exceedingly important because people have lost homes, livelihoods. They're not able to go forward. And I'm concerned that if we hit a window, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but if there's a window of a property must be evaluated in a certain timeline, if it's not being evaluated, where are we with all this stuff? Because if we don't help these individuals quickly, and it's already almost been 2 months, so quick, I realize it's a relative thing, but where are we with this and getting access? And I do appreciate there's a safety concern, and that is a valid safety concern, but there should be a way to get these things going so we can see where our insurance companies stand and thereby where our people stand. How can we facilitate this going forward, and what's your opinions on that?
Yeah, I know Commissioner Ito had discussions with the mayor and with other representatives and expressing that concern about trying to get adjusters in. It's really doesn't fall under our purview. Obviously, when the area is closed off, we can't force the county to open it up for us, or the National Guard or FEMA or EPA. So we've been trying to be telling people to be patient, hoping that the properties will start to be opened up and that people can then gain access to their properties. We know that began just this week. So we're hopeful that that will continue and that people can then get to the part where their, claim can be finished, or, move through the process.
And follow up, Chair. And I get that, and I realize that doesn't come under purview, but what does come under the purview, at least I believe, is that if we hit a deadline that they haven't filed by or whatever the case may be, I think that would come under your purview.
Yeah, I don't know, we can.
Yeah, I think the real hard thing is these carriers want to pay the claims. I mean, these are covered losses, most of these, and most of them have claims open. We waived in adjusters. They've got extra licensed adjusters from out of state. They're spending a lot of money on this. And so access is really important, I think, for the whole community, for the insurance industry, for the community. Some of these homes that are partially damaged, being able to get in there and verify is it livable or not makes a big difference. We have run into issues where there's limited loss of use if the civil authority bars you, but that's long past. But you could get continued, these additional living costs as long as you can verify the home's unlivable. And so access is very, very important. We really need access. It's a drain on the extra cost, to the consumers that have these additional living costs. That's another month or two that maybe they could use on the back end of the claim versus on the front of the claim with nothing really happening. And for the carriers too, they've expended a lot of money to bring in an adjusting force and need to put it, to full force. So
if they've begun the claim process though, then.
Yeah, if you started the claim, you have a certain time to make a claim. And so as long as you've notified the carrier of the claim, they're aware of the claim, or they got a claim open. A lot of these carriers did solicit and open claims. You're generally okay. You want to look at your policy language specifically, but you'd want to make sure, but generally you started the claim. The key is a lot of times is making sure you've started a claim.
I got that, but as we just said, we have people just starting to come out of shell shock right now. So I think we have to be very mindful of that and be accommodating. So Chair, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that it's not necessarily your purview, but it's definitely your kuleana, because it seems clear to me that if you guys are not working on it, there's no one else in state government that is working on it. And this is not a county issue. So I would ask that if it's not the insurance division's, if not the insurance division taking care of it and addressing it, that you please run it up the flagpole, and that we will follow, the chain of command, and that we will follow up with you as well to make sure that there's some sort of coordination that's being elevated. I'm sure that we can coordinate with the majority of the carriers that have policies, but the clock is ticking on this process, right?
I appreciate that, yeah, and I'll express that to Commissioner Ito.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Senator Owa.
Different topic. Over here in one of the written testimonies, I see Geico has received over 500 motor vehicle claims. 96% of the claims already settled. That's just one insurer. Can you give us, I don't know if there's a projection or estimate of the potential increases in rates that we could see by insurers after a disaster like this?
If you want to speak to that.
In general, it's a little bit too early to tell if rates are going to go up and when they're going to go up. But even before this accident, it's not Hawaii, it's not Maui, but just overall rates have been going up for automotive, homeowners, condos, condo buildings. So in general, we have been seeing rates go up. Is there going to be any increase specifically due to Lahaina's wildfires? It's really too early to tell. But
is there anything off of previous fires in California that showed what happened historically that you guys know of?
Not specific. Nothing that I can really attribute, extrapolate to Hawaii, but just in general, it's been going up. So beyond, no specific information beyond that in time.
Sam might have something.
I would just say too that insurance works for expensive things that don't happen very often. And so if things keep repetitively happening, most carriers will build in some kind of, there's going to be a big storm that's going to wipe out a bunch of cars, and that's kind of built into the model. But if it happens very frequently, and I think that's what you're seeing in California, is they're having these constant repetitive wildfires. That really kind of messes up your insurance model. And so anything we can do to prevent things from happening so frequent and mitigate this stuff really helps in keeping rates down and letting carriers, you know, they know that we're going to have some fender benders, or every once in a while we're going to have something that's going to come through and wipe out a couple hundred cars. That's all kind of baked into the cake. But if it's happening a lot more frequently than than they anticipate, that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of pressure on rates as well. So it's happening more often than it normally would happen or is planned to happen.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Chuck.
Senator McKelvey?
Well, I don't know where to begin. I mean, I'm just, the adjuster thing, I mean, what I'm hearing is lack of leadership from DCCA and being a facilitator and a motivator of planning. I'm just thinking to myself, 6 weeks ago, wasn't it, guys? I was like, tsunami waves are coming. Impact zone is the fire and recovery, but their insurance is one. What would, at that point, there should have been an aggressive plan by the state to say, how do we get the adjusters in? How do we get them to work together? How do we get them to share data to start processing claims? And how do we have a game plan to insist on coordination for access? I hear from people on the mainland who've done these disasters, they have things called adjuster buses. They have, the talk was of drone footage, using drones for the partially burned buildings that are intact but can't get access, to help prove these things and move these claims along. This is where DCCA, you're a regulator and your hands are limited in that capacity, but you can be a planner and an advocate for these things. So now all these good people are here on this lovely, cool day because of the fact that they're basically stuck. I was like, well, you can call your care, we can maybe get access and it's not really in our hands. Well, it needs to be in somebody's hands. And I'm thankful the committee's here to help push this along. But you need to be a facilitator. What zones do we have access to? Can we get adjusters in? People are clearly self-helping this already, which is unfair for everybody else who's playing by the rules and trying to run the process the normal way. So I guess the thing is, what is the plan? Can we expect a plan from you guys to the chair on how we're going to facilitate, coordinate, and expedite these kinds of issues so these claims can start to move? So that's the biggest question I have for you guys right now. Maybe the director wants to take a stab at it, I don't know, but this is yet one area of many. And I'm glad we're taking these in separate buckets, because I can tell you, we're probably going to see sadly, many of these good folks here again for other issues under the DCCA's umbrella. So this is one, my question to you is, you've heard it all, what can you do within your capacity as regulator to be an advocacy planner entity to help try to get people ahead of the curve?
Thank you, Senator McKelvey. To be honest, I don't know all the discussions that Commissioner Ito has had to date regarding this issue. I know he has tried to work on that issue. I know.
So the director is here. So if this is I need to run it up the chain of command issue, then let's have the director come and comment.
Okay.
Certainly, I know that, like, the first proclamation that was issued was to be able to waive the ability to get other adjusters come into the state so that we could build that army of adjusters. And I think, I can't remember the exact date the first proclamation was issued, but it was August 9th. I mean,
what good is an army if they're held back behind the walls?
Right, and of course, that's an issue, and I think that's why Commissioner Ito had been meeting with people about trying to work. I mean, the insurance companies want to be able to get in there and do the adjustment work, and I do think, as far as we've heard, some of them were able to use from the aerial views. If the property, as I understand, we've heard anecdotally, but maybe not reported as an official, that if property was clearly a total loss and there's nothing there, that there have been claims where payments have been made and those claims have been closed. And
this was the thing with the director was, on the sat maps in the burn zone showing complete devastation, it's an easy thing. But it's the partially destroyed, structurally compromised, and buildings that may look intact, but as our good friends here in Lahaina know, are basically not the case. So again, to the drone footage, why isn't the insurance commissioner, I talked to him, he seemed open to the idea of coordinating, getting contracting out a company to do flyovers continuously of all of these areas and share this data with all of the insurance companies so they can start moving forward. That was a couple of weeks ago I brought that up. I haven't heard anything. So what's wrong with ideas like this to get this Army access, to use things like technology to try to get the information for all of the people who are suffering because they can't get in, the adjuster can't get in, and their structure has been deemed questionable.
And I haven't heard about that. I haven't heard about
You heard
that
it here.
right, but now hearing it from you, that makes a lot of sense. And I will be doing follow-up with Commissioner Ito and everyone else in terms of who might be involved in instrumentally pushing that through. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Can it be done? Can it be done quickly, do you think?
I don't know that we've looked into
quickly.
it, but I mean, it's an idea that certainly makes sense. I mean, part of it is we're trying to find out, whether or not there are these claims that have been paid using, right, drone footage or anything that could indicate for the properties that are clearly gone and destroyed. Partial, that's another challenge. And we do need to figure out how to help get adjusters in there to the property.
The issue is in totality of loss. That's clearly being handled through the other means. It's the issues that the community's brought up here today. You have technology to assess adjusters and getting at least some kind of preliminary read and something to keep things moving until the physical adjustment can get in. And the state can plan on trying to work to get them in. You need PPEs, put them in PPEs, put them on a bus, get them to drive around, get the drone footage to augment so we can get movement on all of these different things. But at the end of the day, although you are a regulator, you do have an advocacy hat and a leadership hat to play at this level of government. So that's why these things are important. And hopefully you'll communicate back to the chair of the committee. I thank him for using the committee to really drill down on these issues. So I know everybody here and myself will eagerly be awaiting what efforts are going to be made to do this.
So perhaps to clarify so that we can move on this issue, it's perhaps not a question of if or how, it's when you can provide us with a plan to address this. And with an understanding that you would need to likely coordinate with other entities, federal, county, whoever. But we would like a plan on this, please. Thank you.
And just to add, the issue with drones, I mean, it's not something that you can't get to. We just got monies from our committee, our purview for DOBAR, the division of our police agency at DLNR. And all we did was provide some monies. They got the drones and they've been using it because they need it to get to the divisions of the land areas, our homeless people, where they are. But I don't think it's something that would be an obstacle. And if you have some monies pre-session, use it, and we can provide, I'm sure the chair would be very an opportunity next session to come up and give the resources that you need. But, with technology and with drones, everybody's using it. The military is using it. And we just came out with, I was at an ag conference at the convention center 2 days ago, and
Okay, we're reconvening because we lost our live stream feed right in the middle of a question. So I think what I'm going to do is recognize Senator McKelvey, try and ask him to restate the parts of the question he remembers, and then we'll go from there.
Line? I believe we're talking about the fact that the insurers will be coming in for rate increases, potentially, and you were explaining the process of that, but then you touched upon a word, I'll throw this in there, it is an addendum, was the definition of what is extraordinary and excessive. Who defines or analyzes what that means? And in the break, I was reminded again, people before this were having a real hard time affording insurance to begin with. So I guess what's that metric mean and how will that be applied so people here can kind of get a direction?
Thank you for the question. Roland, do you mind mentioning about just our rate review process, how that works?
Sure. During our rate review, we're looking at companies have to justify their rates. And we want to look to see if their rates are at least commensurate to what they're providing, what coverages they're providing. So there is a rate review process, and we do evaluate if their rates are excessive of what they expect to take in as losses and expenses. So kind of similar to a business, their cost of goods sold. So if it's above that, we do evaluate that.
But they're going to use lane and this basically as their reasons why it's not extraordinary to have these super high rates, but people can't get insurance. They're underinsured, they're non-insured.
Right.
Welcome to Lahaina, one of the highest costs of living in the great old state of Hawaii, not the country.
Yeah. So again, we were seeing not just specific to Maui, but across the state, across the country, rates have been going up. And it's a little too early to tell if this impact is how this is going to impact the rates, if it will, when it will. But I want to ask people to take this opportunity to look at their policies, talk to their agents, because they might actually be in situations where they're already not with the best company who's providing the best value. Talk to your agents, look if you're overinsured, because situations where you're actually paying too much coverage. So there might be ways to bring down your premium beyond the rates. Look at your coverage, look at the companies. So look at different ways that you can try to get the best value, make sure you're insured, make sure you're not underinsured as well, but
we appreciate that. We're going to keep this on the rate increases potentially and what it can mean for consumers to be able to afford insurance, because clearly it's already a problem. And the state, is there any kind of idea, initiative, and forgive me, Chair, last question, to try to help those particularly ground zero families who are underinsured or uninsured? Yes, we are. Part of this federal process is ring around the rosy is going to SBA, where they basically hit your credit score. And people now go, wow, I just got ahead. I didn't wake up on the 8th thinking I would need to go out and take out a loan and get my credit score hit and get turned down and then have nowhere to go. So the question is, what proactively can you do to align resources of those who are underinsured and uninsured? And has there been discussion of perhaps using the 300 million or portions thereof as a bridge path to the next legislative session when more resources could potentially be identified?
I mean, I don't have an answer for you on that, to be honest. I mean, what we do is regulate insurance companies.
And, well, I appreciate your honesty. Yeah. And I guess this falls back in the director's wheelhouse. So hopefully as part of follow-up communication, she can help take a deeper dive into what can be done now and what potentially could be planned to try to address this problem systemically. What's the vehicle? Is it a captive? Is it using these funds? What's the plan to potentially create a bridge? And that's what I'm asking you guys to step beyond the regulator role, but I recognize that. And it's kind of always been talking to people, there are limitations on a regulator can do, but there's the advocacy planning part, which we keep coming back to. So hopefully you can continue to make that part of the ongoing communications back to the chair of the committee. And then of course to the community, which we'll be sharing everything with as part of the way to make sure the dialogue is tracked and we can make sure there's answers. And if we don't know, to say we don't know.
So thank you for that. I appreciate you, Director, working on that with us. And thank you, Chair, for your questions.
If I can follow up on that briefly, not briefly, actually. Because on the flip side of the rate issue, I'm thinking of what is happening right now in Florida and in California, and what has happened in Puna, which is that there seems to be an upper limit to what the market can tolerate. And what we definitely do not want is more of the deserts of access that exist, like in Puna and what's happening right now, like I said, in California and Florida. So within this is directly in your regulatory role, is to manage these rate increase requests and to balance between affordability, which is an access issue because people cannot get, they cannot access insurance they cannot afford, but also making sure we don't have, we maintain a robust competitive insurance market. I know you guys are thinking about it, so if you could think out loud for a little bit. Here,
Sure,
please.
sure. So, Hawaii has benefited from a stable insurance marketplace for many years. We've been fortunate to have limited examples of large-scale disasters, like we're experiencing now with the wildfire. We did have the Kilauea eruption. I would consider that very large scale with over 700 homes destroyed. And insurers may leave at any marketplace for various reasons. Some of those factors may be regulatory environment, profitability concerns, catastrophic claims, reinsurance costs. I would argue that what took place in Florida and California is not the same that it is currently in Hawaii. Doesn't mean we still might not have individual companies exit, but that's not what we're foreseeing at this point in time.
I guess if you can expound on why, because a big part of what's going on in California is wildfires.
I understand.
And maybe the biggest part of what's going on in Florida is hurricanes.
Right.
And those are only increasing in incidence.
I understand.
And intensity.
And if we had an increase in incidence and intensity, maybe we would see the same thing. But what I would say is, Florida in particular had certain regulatory environment that allowed a lot of insurance companies to be sued over and over and over. And it became a point where the insurance companies said, we don't want to deal with that environment anymore. California has some issues with rates and rate regulations that insurers, when they were trying to increase their rates to appropriately price for the risk that they're trying to insure, that they were not able to get those rate increases. And so that created an environment where they felt like we can't issue any new policies, or we need to exit completely because we can't charge the appropriate rate for the risk that we're undertaking. In Hawaii, we have a very good regulatory environment, where we try to make it fair, transparent, not overly burdensome for the insurers. So, part of that is trying to maintain that environment. But as you pointed out, the other issue is affordability. So getting back to that, the comment earlier about excessive, that's excessive as far as what we deem as far as profitability, right? We feel like, insurers should be able to, if they're going to operate, they want to earn profits. We just make sure that those profits are not excessive. That doesn't mean that the rates might not be affordable. That's a whole separate issue. If a person chooses to live in a lava zone, for example, there's nothing they can do to mitigate against a volcanic eruption. Wildfires, that type of thing, hurricanes, there are certain things that homeowners or property owners can take to try to mitigate some of that risk. But it varies, and so and then on top of that is the whole issue of reinsurance. So reinsurance is basically, for people who don't know, is insurance for insurance companies. And that really drives a lot of the market as well. So if an insurer in Hawaii is trying to write more business and they can't get reinsurance for that, then that's going to limit their options as far as writing business, because that domestic insurer or that insurer that's licensed in Hawaii, can't take on that additional risk. What's reinsurers are global, right? And then they price things out regionally or globally. And so insurance companies who are trying to get reinsurance are seeing those rates go through the roof right now because, as we have seen, nationwide, worldwide disasters occurring left and right, where these reinsurers are taking tremendous amount of losses. And that's now being passed down to the insurance companies and then passed down to consumers. So, I mean, that's the perspective I can offer as far as, what we do to try to lessen the risk of insurers leaving the marketplace. One, we still keep a good regulatory environment for them to operate in. Two, we as a community work to, as far as infrastructure improvements and collaborate with other state, stakeholders as far as the industry, consumer advocacy groups, and, other stakeholders. I feel that's essential to continue to work as a community to make sure that we can keep an environment where insurers don't feel it's necessary to stop writing insurance in Hawaii.
Chair, just to follow up regarding, I'm going to change the subject to agriculture insurance.
Well, wait, do we have any follow-up questions on that?
Yeah.
And then I'll recognize you right after.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I think this follows in line with what Chair was talking about as not necessarily regulatory side, but advocacy side or leadership. As we look to the rebuilding, the value of supplies is skyrocketed. And so we're going to have, I believe we're going to have a gap here. And I don't know how to address that, but I think that does come under, in part, your Kuleana for working on that because, again, taking a step back, look at the bigger picture. Taking care of the community is what we're all here trying to get done. And we have to get the community back in housing, back to work, back to functioning. If we don't do that, we're going to lose the community, we're going to lose these families, are going to leave because we can't do that. Part of that rebuilding is going to be the cost of rebuilding. And again, I realize we're just gathering this, but I think we're going to need advocacy and leadership to be sure that the cost of those supplies and that cost of that construction is going to fall in line with what we can afford to get done. And I know it's not necessarily a regulatory thing, but I think it is something we have to all be mindful of that as we're going forward, because no one would have predicted where we are with our cost of supplies coming through the pandemic. And then we're not even quite through the impact of that. And now we're faced with this. So I think we're going to have to be talking a story about that to get this community, but it's really the state as a whole back healed. So I just want to make those comments, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Inouye.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask if this has been brought to your attention. I got a call from an insurance on agriculture, an insurance agent, and she did tell me we're in deep kimchi going forward because it seems like, and I was wondering if you guys had been notified that some of those that are selling agriculture insurance are moving out. And it's kind of sad, and it's a perfect timing with this, and I'm happy that our CPA chair is highlighting insurance because it's a multitude of different industries.
Okay, calling back to order. Recognized Senator Inouye for a question before we lost the feed. The question was delivered to the DCCA, so we're just going to ask you to answer.
Sure. So I believe the question was if we're aware of, you said agriculture. I think we were looking to try to, whether there's different lines of insurance. One is crop insurance. The other could be farm and ranch insurance. But, you know, off stream, you clarified that you believe it's crop insurance. We don't believe there's a lot of what we call admitted carriers in the state offering that type of coverage. It would be through what's called a surplus lines carrier that we don't regulate. None of us here have heard about that being as an issue, so we're welcome if you could, you know, send to us, our office, especially if you know of which carriers may be exiting. Even though it might not be a carrier.
I don't know the company, but I have the name of the agents that called me.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, we can reach out to them as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? Senator McKelvey?
I want to pivot this to, I want to touch upon Ms. Heidi's question, which was asked about the fact that you have work that's being done potentially in the maritime salvage repair of Lahaina Harbor, that, you know, potentially FEMA could go to their insurance to recoup the cost for this. There's a presence of another party in the process that doesn't have any entities here in Hawaii, and they're using as a sub the company that was supposed to do it that has assets here, and this company in the past has overcharged quite a bit. So you now have a new entity in the chain that is going to be using the same one that was here with the equipment, and it's going to be overcharging. Now, is there a way that you could assist these boat owners and others on getting an answer from Coast Guard and FEMA if they're going to do this, which was mentioned earlier by her?
Yeah, so I was just on a Zoom call yesterday with Coast Guard and FEMA, and they were bringing up this issue, and Coast Guard is trying to get answers from FEMA and as well as us. So we need to understand, because obviously this is a federally declared disaster, and, you know, the federal government takes precedent on how this operation is being handled. Ultimately, you know, if a vessel owner, a boat owner had insurance, that salvage work would be then charged back to the insurance company.
So yeah, then boom.
Yeah.
So thank you for confirming their fears. Proving my point.
At least that is our understanding. But it's really hard, as you know, to get answers sometimes.
And the question is with regards to salvaging.
Yes, regarding salvaging.
But they're going to recoup the cost from their insurance.
From the insurance companies, not from the boat owners directly. It's going to be through. So if the boat owner didn't have insurance coverage, I do not believe that the boat owner is going to be liable for that salvage cost. But, you know, I'm not an expert on that either, but, you know, that's what we hear. It's just if they had insurance company.
Would this be a subject of a rate increase as well down the line?
Sure. I mean, anything that adds to the overall expense that an insurance company is incurring, especially if it wasn't something that they anticipated or had in their models, you know, their rate models. So, yeah, it's possible that it could all factor in. Sure.
Well, the ratepayer gets hit at the end. The end victim is still the victim of the ratepayer. So that's why it's an important question. And that's, I'm hoping that the director nodding back there, and that's why I appreciate her skills as an attorney as well.
Well, it's not only the rate increase with regards to that, but those that are insured and their boats, their vessels are salvaged, then it goes back to them, the boat owner, but they're relying on the insurance coverage. So if it's cost overrun, then the boat owner will have to pay the difference. So still, the burden is on the owner, whether you had insurance or not, both pays.
Help us protect the consumer.
Exactly.
And that's our job. That's what we try to do. We try our best at trying to protect the consumer.
So is it you, or is it a different division of the DCCA that's going to deal with enforcing abuse? What if there are these documented cases of price gouging or other types of unscrupulous activity that we are, you know, I think everyone expects sooner or later we're going to start hearing horror stories. How do we get out in front of them? What's your what's the scope of your Kuleana versus, OCP or RICO?
Right, well, you just mentioned price gouging, so I know OCP has already been very
That's the
proactive
Office
on
of
that.
Consumer Protection.
Office
We're
of Consumer Protection.
saying
So
acronyms.
our Kuleana would be if there's any abuse by insurance, any entity that we license, any unlicensed entity acting as if they're licensed, like a public adjuster, any insurance company that's not acting appropriately, all of that is our Kuleana, and that we will investigate and take action appropriately.
But isn't the, I guess, the coverage for the emergency proclamation, where are we? That's covered under insurance as well, right? So did the last emergency proclamation that governor did that extend the insurances as well?
I don't know if there was
It does,
anything
so
in the proclamation
none
regarding
of the
insurance.
proclamations had to do with, that's
No,
kind
I
of,
mean, it would be like the price gouging.
the gouging, yes.
Yes.
So is that-
And eventually it's going to trickle to unlicensed contractors or, other scams of that nature, which then will fall under other
But
agencies
so
within
there's
DCCA.
one existing right now
What?
out of the proclamation,
One
that
in-
price gouging
yes.
on insurance.
Yes.
So my question is that on the last proclamation that governor just, I guess, made another extension, or is there a countdown?
No, so I believe there's been an update
Because you
to
got
that
what,
price
90
gouging.
days or something?
Yeah.
Director.
I think on the price.
We only got 5 more minutes, so you can just stay there.
Okay, on the price gouging issue and the proclamation, as I understand it, it doesn't include insurance payments or insurance costs. It includes certain commodities that are viewed as essential, and they had like a specific list. So if it basically, it replaced whatever might have been a more general statement against price gouging to something that now specifies on a list. These are basically what are considered more essential commodities or essential items that there can't be price gouging for. So it's
Okay.
a specific list now that's in, I think it's the 7th proclamation.
The list that I saw, the last one, I thought it had insurance and price gouging on insurance. It didn't. So that means that we're in deep kimchi too then. So do we ask governor then to do a proclamation?
I mean, there
on price
shouldn't be any
gouging?
price gouging on insurance.
On insurance?
Because first of all, they have to file their rates
you
with
file
us.
the rate.
Yeah.
They should only be charging the rates that we've approved. And it comes back to the original question, though, if we see abuses by insurance companies that they're
Okay.
charging rates that we didn't approve, then we would
So
for sure
that's
take
under your
action.
purview then. It'll come to you eventually.
If there's anything, any wrongdoing or abuses that are going on, we encourage consumers to reach out to us and let us know of that, and we will fully investigate it and take appropriate action on the licensee, and then we also have a fraud branch, so if there is actual fraud going on, they will investigate it and criminally prosecute.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chair.
Do you guys handle any kinds of appeals process? People go to their insurance companies, you've heard instances brought up today, and they obviously think it's unjust and they have to appeal. In other places, there could be regulatory system. Yeah, please, fire away.
Sure. There is an appeals process to auto insurance but as far as homeowners, there's usually an appraisal clause in your policy that's kind of built within the contract where you can invoke appraisal. You'll have your contractor, whoever you've got dealing with your dispute. As far as the coverage, that's more on like repairs, scope of repairs. But as far as like a coverage dispute, that's something that probably have to go to court.
So you have to get an attorney, pay for an attorney. So you guys don't do any kind of.
Well, the complaint process, if they have an issue with the company, the complaint process is very helpful because that a lot of times will kind of gel the issues, or it might resolve the issue in that process under review by the carrier, but also it'll gel the issues. Then you know what your next step would be. It kind of helps you know, okay, how do I go about resolving what this impasse is. But if it's like a repair versus replace or something like that, your policy has a built-in process for that, the appraisal process.
But you have to go through their process with their people.
Yes, you'd have
or hire an attorney, right?
Well, on the appraisal, you just have like probably your contractor or somebody you're working with, and then the company would have somebody, those two would choose an umpire and go from there. So there's kind of a built-in, let's try and resolve it, work together process. But if it's a coverage issue, contract issue, yeah, that's a little more, that's a different process. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, this meeting was published as going from 10 to 1. We have 5 minutes left. The space is available for another hour for everyone in the community who would like to continue the discussion. I know we have a number of insurance industry members that are present here, so I'd encourage everyone to continue to discuss things after we end this meeting. I just want to really briefly, again, thank the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, the Insurance Division especially, and the Director for attending. Thank you again to the County of Maui for making the space available. It was not available when we initially asked for it, and because they were able to work with us, we did not need to convene this in Wailuku, which was the only other space that we had available. Maui College was especially helpful in helping us do all the technical stuff that we needed for this briefing, including the equipment, which some of it was lost on the flight over that we got to go chase down after this. To the senators for allowing this meeting. It is not normal customary practice to take public testimony in an informational briefing, but this is a special circumstance that everyone recognized was necessary. To the Senate IT office, they've done a tremendous amount of work to make this happen, and as a result, it is likely that we can do more of these in the future. This was the first time we've ever done this. And to the committee staff as well, thank you guys so much for all of your hard work. And to everyone in Lahaina, I'll close with, our condolences to all of you for your losses and for the trauma that everyone has been going through. It was especially important that we come in person because of what happened. And thank you for allowing us to come to your community and convene this meeting. So mahalo again. And with that, we are adjourned.